On blast.
This is Ball on Blast, part of the On Blast Podcast Network, available on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. If you like it, then subscribe and tell your friends. Holla.
On blast.
Thank you. You're far too kind for tuning in once again to the Ball on Blast podcast. My name is Sheldon Alexander, and as always, I'm here with my guy, Andrew Webster. Webby, what is good, my dude? How you doing?
Yo, I'm doing well, man. 2 Game 7s, first time since 1979. We've got our NBA Finals matchup set up, and it's the Cavs and Warriors.
Shocker.
And I was talking to a lot of people today that seemed kind of bummed, like disappointed. But we were saying this earlier, like if it does end up Cavs Warriors in the finals, that means some crazy stuff in the playoffs has happened.
Exactly.
And crazy stuff in the playoffs has happened not only on the court, but man, off the court as well.
We are blessed in this era of the NBA, but also this era of social media, because all of social media last night, Webby, here's the thing. I went for a little walk after work. I went to have some lunch or some dinner, on a patio. You know, I was kind of tuned out. I was plugged out of the social media world for a couple hours.
Sometimes you got it.
Right?
Sometimes you got to log off.
It happens. I get home. I sit down on my couch, turn on the old laptop, and all of a sudden, the first thing I saw last night was about Roseanne. And I was like, oh, okay, that's a pretty big story. Then I get a text message. As I'm reading about Roseanne, I get a text message that says, man, Bryan Colangelo. And I'm like, Bryan Colangelo? Okay. As I was looking at that, you sent me the message that was just like, you got to catch up. And I was like, oh no, Pusha T responded. And that just like, that was the 3 things that just hit me in a row. And then I spent the next 2 hours, honestly, deep diving on the internet and reading memes.
Yo, same. So last night, my betrothed, my beautiful fiance Ashley, made us some amazing turkey burgers.
Ooh.
We had a great dinner,
Okay.
Feasting out. And then, I was like, all right, babe, I'm just going to look at my phone. And I literally fired up Twitter right as the Pusha T track dropped.
Oh, man.
It was the first thing that I saw, and it was like, wow, Pusha's crazy for this one. So I played it, and I was just like, oh my God. And so I was enjoying all the memes and all the great stuff that was going along with the Pusha track that dropped. And then about half an hour to an hour after he dropped the track, I saw the Ringer article, and I was like, whoa, Bryan Colangelo is using burner? Like, what does this mean? And I just read the first 2 paragraphs of the story, and I was like, I got it right away. I was like, oh my God. And then I just kind of consumed it all through Twitter as people were reading it. And like you said, I was deep diving. I was taking all the memes. And then at about 11, I laid down in bed and I just read the whole article front to back. And just to get the full breadth of it. And it was, that's Pulitzer Prize winning shit right there, man.
It's incredible, right? It is like you summed it up there with the 2018. It just sums up this era of journalism. Because it's not like they did anything crazy, right? They went on to Twitter and searched a bunch of stuff, right?
Well, no, they had the analytics guy who gave them this nameless.
You mean
analytics.
Sam Hinkie?
Well, we're gonna get to it, right? But I'm hoping that's Sam Hinkie. But somebody came to the Ringer and said, "Hey, I've got this kind of algorithm that shows a lot of consistencies with Bryan Colangelo and these 5 basically egg accounts."
It was an anonymous tip, right? That's the story?
Yeah.
As my phone rings in the background and my phone never rings. House phone? What is going on? That's crazy.
Obi just scored on a one-timer. Let's make it all happen.
Hey, everything is happening. But yeah, do we want to start here? Do we want to just start with Colangelo, or do we want to start with the Game 7 basketball? What do we want to do here? What do you think?
Okay, I think we should start with the actual games. The actual 2 games.
Okay, yeah, because once we get going on Colangelo, that might take a while.
Exactly. And this is an NBA podcast. And while sometimes it is a Twitter podcast, we do have games to talk about. We have got an NBA Finals matchup set up for a 4th straight year.
It's so crazy, right? And you said it to start the pod. We told you guys if we got to Cavs Warriors, we know that it would be a great time getting there. And the Rockets Warriors, it surpassed my expectations, right? I wasn't expecting it to be that much of a series. Like I expected
what about
close
Cavs
games.
Celtics?
I was getting there. But, Warriors Rockets, that series just back and forth blows. There was a moment there where it was like, hold on, can the Warriors actually lose this series?
Yeah.
And then Chris Paul got hurt. How much do you think the Chris Paul injury affected the outcome of that series, Webby?
Yeah, I really do. I really think it affected them a lot. Just because they were so set up to play that way that they've really built that team around, which is threes and layups.
Yeah.
And with Chris Paul there, you kind of had that bridge over the gap between the threes and the layups. He was somebody who can shoot the ball really well, but can also drive and create and hit those little pull-up 2-point jumpers when you need them, right?
Yeah.
And to not have that in the two most important games of the series, it was really tough. Not only that, but like we've said, Chris Paul, love him, hate him, guy is tough. Guy's tough hombre, and they did it. To me, man, they didn't have that toughness. When the going got tough there, especially in Game 7, there was nobody on the Rockets that could overcome that. Now, listen, we both love P.J. Tucker as well, but I'm talking about somebody who can really lead you down the stretch, somebody that you can count on consistently on the offensive end of the court.
For sure. Was it that crazy Game 5, the ending of Game 5, we really saw how important Chris Paul was to that team? Because if you look at the Rockets' failures in the past and, more specifically James Harden's failures in the past, right? It's normally down the stretch. It's normally in those moments where you want to see your superstar take that next step. And we've seen James Harden struggle in those situations now multiple years in a row in the playoffs. And Chris Paul was supposed to come in and help him do that. And I know a lot of the focus was put on the missed three-pointers, right? Which was terrible, which was atrocious. What was it, 27 straight they missed?
They missed 27 in a row.
So I know that's a crazy number, and that's what everyone's going to focus on. And trust me, that is an abomination at like the highest level. But that's also where you see them missing Chris Paul, because Chris Paul was the one that gives them that other option in terms of what their offense is, right? Yes, James Harden can shoot threes. Yes, Gordon can shoot threes. But those guys rely on their shots more than Chris Paul, who can get in the lane, get a layup, but also maybe get in the lane and get someone a wide open three, right? Instead of some of the weird contested threes that James Harden was taking down the stretch, there are a couple there where I wasn't even sure if he was trying to score. Do you know what I mean? Like it looked like he was trying to hunt fouls more so than he was trying to score. It was just a really odd look, but no doubt
and that's
they missed Chris Paul.
Yeah, 100%. Now the things definitely, like that Game 7, I thought that things really turned for them. Like there was that one turning point, and that was for me that 4-point play that they didn't count the basket on.
It was a huge momentum thing, yeah.
And it just seemed like before that they were keeping the Warriors at bay. But once they didn't get that call, it seemed to turn that tide into Game 7. And then, man, I don't know how to compare the Warriors to anything other than an avalanche.
It's crazy.
And once that snow is on top of you, that's it. You're done.
Once that third quarter hits, and I don't know, man, it's crazy to watch because there were moments where you're wondering their offense doesn't look good at all. You're questioning how much do they really miss Iguodala. I'm questioning Steve Kerr because I'm like, what is Steve Kerr doing? Right?
The fouls with Klay Thompson.
Yeah, there's
like the 3 fouls in the first quarter.
Oh, yeah. There was so much going on with the Warriors, and you're watching them thinking this game is right there for the Rockets to take. And I know that people, again, we're going off, okay, they missed 27 shots, and that is crazy, right? But if you just break that down and think, I saw some crazy stat. It was something to the effect of they were 7 of 44 from 3, right? And the likelihood of a team that shoots as well as the Rockets do throughout the entire regular season and having them miss 27 straight shots was basically 1 in 72,000. Those are the odds of a team that shoots as well as the Rockets do or have or did during the regular season. For them to then miss 27 in a row, it's 1 in 72,000. So you think like if they don't go like 7 of 44, if they go 12 of 44, right? Do you know what I mean? Like, not even that much better, but just like
No,
a
all
little
you
bit
needed
better.
was a couple of more.
Yeah.
But that stretch just, I mean, it just ended them.
And here's the thing, too, right? Because I think I tweeted about this during the game while the game was going on. But to me, a big factor is we know that there's so much focus in sports, in all of sports, on stats, right? And we talk about it all the time on the pod, how stats can tell you a lot, but it doesn't give you the whole entire picture, right? So it's fine that you can base your entire offense on shooting threes and layups, right? And the numbers back that up. The math will back that up. Obviously, it's better taking a three than it is taking a long two.
A long two.
For sure.
Yeah.
The math will always back
That's
that
math.
up. But what the math doesn't show you is what the effect is on your legs trying to take a three when you're tired, when your team's only playing 7 players a night, and you're in game 7 against the best team in the league. And also, on top of that, the same way that the Rockets were hunting Steph Curry on defense, so James Harden was just trying to get switches onto Steph Curry, they were also doing the same thing back to the Rockets and hunting James Harden on defense.
Yeah.
So now James Harden has to guard up every single time on the defensive end. You're going to be tired down the stretch. And KD even pointed that out, right? KD said, we knew James dribbles a lot and he's going to get tired come the end of the game. And that's kind of what happened, no?
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. The dribbling, and you're forcing him to play defense is so tough.
It's so
because
tough.
the way that the Warriors move that ball around too, it's like everybody has to be kind of at their tip top athletically and in shape to chase them around screens, chase them off screens. And then if you were also adding on top of that your offense is based on heaving up these long shots, like you say, that take a little more toll on your legs. I mean, it's really tough to beat a great team like the Warriors like that.
It is very tough to beat a team like the Warriors. And, it's James Harden. At the end of the day, PJ Tucker, shout out to PJ Tucker. He is
great.
Yeah, he is a key piece that you would want on your team if you're a championship contender. He's one of those like glue guys that we talk about that you need, that would be like the finishing piece that you want on a championship team, because he had games where he was just bullying Durant in the post, grabbing rebounds, dominating the boards.
Hitting corner threes,
yeah, man.
Great. He was one of their better shooters.
He might have been, with Chris Paul going out late and James Harden struggling for the last few games.
And Ariza not being able to hit the broadside of a barn.
Ariza turning into John Starks, right? Wow, just a tough performance. And it sucks for those guys too, because again, they're right there. They built the team, they took the chance, and it's sad. It sucks. You know what really sucks about it? Because, a lot of people probably thought the Warriors get Kevin Durant and nobody else has a chance. You should just give up, whatever. Everyone's playing for second place. And instead, the Rockets decided, Daryl Morey decided, no, we're going to go for this. We're going to swing for the fence. We're going to bring in Chris Paul. We're going to build the rest of our team around what we want to do, which is play defense. They got the right guys in terms of getting PJ Tucker. Gerald Green gave them solid minutes in terms of being a depth guy, right? And it put people in their rightful places. You had Eric Gordon coming off the bench, being a great sixth man. And you built this team perfectly to go up against the Warriors, right? And you just have the worst shooting game you could possibly have in a game 7. It sucks, man. It sucks. And I hope the moral that we take out of this was you still got to try. Swing for the fence. I hope this offseason teams do the same thing. Swing for the fence and try to just not get wiped out by the Warriors.
Yeah, I was going to say believe in your team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Believe that your strategy and the way that you're building this team is good enough to beat anybody in the league. And that's what I thought that Morey really did well with the Rockets, is that a lot of people said that kind of style of basketball would never work. No way you're going to beat the Warriors. Listen, it's not feasible in today's NBA. And he said, you know what? Like you said, he doubled down. And he brought in the perfect player to add to that system to make their strengths even stronger and help soften those weaknesses a little bit. And you know what? If we all know that Daryl Morey is not done tinkering with the roster on this team.
Nope.
And I just hope that he, keeps going after those same players that are going to let the Rockets play the style of basketball that they're the best at. And that's also a reason that I don't think that they're going to go out and get LeBron.
Ooh, interesting.
Because I don't think LeBron, that's not the style that he'd be best in, you know?
Yeah, I don't know how that fits, right? And it's kind of like LeBron. You'd have so many possessions where LeBron's just standing watching James Harden dribble. And I'm not sure that's
Yeah.
what LeBron wants to do. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know, maybe it changes as LeBron heads into like the next phase of his career where he might not be the most dominating guy like all the time on a team. Do you know what I'm trying to say here? Because
Oh, absolutely.
he's still going to be LeBron, but he's not going to be the exact same LeBron 2 years from now, 3 years from now, right? And I think that next move, I still don't even know if he wants to be a guy that's just standing in the corner almost in that Trevor Ariza role. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And it sounds even crazy to think about, but Chris Paul took a step back, and there were moments where the reason why this worked was they balanced Chris Paul's minutes with James Harden, right? Chris Paul knew when he could take turns. Now you got to do that with 3 guys. I don't know how good of a fit that is. And plus, if 3 of your guys in crunch time are James Harden, Chris Paul, and LeBron, we already know because we're watching what LeBron has to do this season. He's relaxing a lot on defense, right? James Harden doesn't play defense, and Chris Paul is getting up there in age. So now, who are your other 2 guys that you're playing with them? You're going to have to give up Capella, so it's not going to be him, right? Can't be Capella if you're getting LeBron.
Right.
Can you still afford PJ Tucker? Do you have to give him up too? Like, it's tough to build your team if that's just going to be, if it's those 3 guys as a centerpiece. I don't know. That's tough. And again, I don't know if I'm LeBron, I want to go west. That's still the biggest factor to me. I don't know why you'd want to go west.
I completely understand. I completely agree with you there. You'd want to play more of the Knicks, more of the Nets, you know.
Bring on Oladipo. But
Yeah.
last question about the Rockets here. And of course, we'll get to the Warriors when we talk about the NBA Finals. But last question with the Rockets here: is it time that we start questioning James Harden as a superstar? I say this because LeBron's on a tier on his own where LeBron gets crushed all the time, right?
Right.
Steph doesn't really get crushed if he doesn't show up in big moments. Same with KD. Maybe Russ does, but for the longest time, if we're talking about MVP caliber players, you get called out if you have these playoff no-shows that James Harden's had the past couple years. Is it time?
I don't know if this was I don't think this was a playoff no-show. He got to Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals.
And then no-showed.
He had a tough Game 7.
He had a tough Game 7. He did.
But he wasn't playing with his complete team as well. Like,
true.
I saw that Skip Bayless tweet of, James Harden is a perfect regular season player or whatever.
I think that's going
bunk,
too far.
Man. That's bunk, man. He's top 5 player in the NBA for sure. For sure. And you know what? It was funny. Remember KD was on Bill Simmons earlier, and they said, one of my favorite questions that he was asked was, of Westbrook, KD, and Harden, who is who from Migos?
Okay.
Right? And Harden was Takeoff, right?
Okay.
I don't know if Harden's Takeoff anymore, man.
That's interesting. Okay. Okay.
I think he may have moved up into Offset role.
Ooh.
Because what he did this
Hold
season...
on. So KD's Quavo?
Yeah, KD's
Whoa. See, anyways. Yeah, we'll move on. We'll move on, but okay.
I mean, this is something that we could really discuss. But what I'm saying is that I think that Russ has really done a lot over the last 2 years to put himself in. Listen, obviously LeBron's in that first tier, but if you think that Harden's not in that second tier, you're crazy.
No. For sure, Harden is right there. He's definitely right there. It's as ridiculous of an argument. Sorry, go on.
I don't think losing a Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals makes you a regular season player, not a playoff performer.
Yeah,
I thought he had a really good playoffs.
Do you know what it is, Webby? It's like the same little nitpicking that we do when we're talking about the difference between LeBron Jordan versus LeBron James, right? What did I just say? Did I say LeBron Jordan? Is that what I just said? I thought
that's a Freudian slip right there.
That's terrible. But it's the same thing that we do when we're talking about Michael Jordan versus LeBron James, right? The little things that we nitpick at when you're talking about the level of greatness at the top. I feel like it's the same thing on a lesser level, obviously. We're talking about James Harden and being that top dog in the NBA. And I mean, we're talking about a guy who's going to win MVP, so you're in that conversation. And we saw Game 5. I don't know if they win that game without Chris Paul, right? And I feel like,
Right.
down the stretch, you're the MVP. That's where your team needs you the most. And I don't know if we saw that down the stretch from James Harden in crunch time when his team really needed it. And hey, you got to go through those battles, but you might be right, Webby. At the end of the day, the same way that I say I'm not going to knock LeBron James for losing in the NBA Finals to the Golden State Warriors, at the end of the day, I can't really knock James Harden that much for losing in Game 7 to the Warriors as well.
To the Warriors,
Right?
you know?
They're a juggernaut.
Without
It's crazy.
Chris Paul in the lineup for the last 2 games, too.
Exactly. I mean, I want to see what the Rockets end up doing next year. I think it was you brought that up last week, how James Harden really talked about how much he learned from playing with Chris Paul for a year. Were we talking about that?
I think so.
And I think they elaborated with it during the broadcast. They were talking about how, there are moments where there are times they're on the road or whatever, and James Harden's about to go out, and he goes to check on Chris Paul, like just see what he's saying, and Chris Paul's like watching game tape. And he sits down with them to like watch, and James Harden's like ready to go out, and Chris Paul's like, nah, like I'm taking in this game tape right now. Like this is what I'm doing. And I feel like for Harden to take that next step, he might have to do that. I mean, the lessons that we got from LeBron, and I'll kind of use this as a segue into LeBron.
Right.
There's really levels to this shit, right? And LeBron to me just proved that he is a notch above the Steph Currys, the Kevin Durant's, James Harden's, the Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, like those guys. LeBron, what he did to get his team to the NBA Finals, man, I said he's hater proof. There's still a lot of haters, but I feel like those haters are looking sillier and sillier by the day, no?
I mean, that picture of the still of LeBron with Marcus Morris all over his back, the one that he's still at the layup. I mean, that pretty much epitomizes LeBron James' season this year. Just putting everybody on his back. Now, he played, that was his 100th game, right?
Yes. Yeah, pretty sure Game 7 was his 100th game or 101st, but I think it was 100th.
Did he play all 82?
He did.
So, here's the thing. James Harden had an amazing season.
He did.
Shooting the ball. But honestly, man, if I had a vote, it would, 82 games, man. He didn't take one night off. He's the best player in the game. We're at the same point as we were with Jordan, where we just don't want to give him the MVP every year. Why? What, because it would get boring?
Yeah, it's true.
If LeBron James isn't the most valuable player, I don't know who is.
Yeah, if I know that James Harden is probably going to win MVP because the votes are already in and all that, but honestly, you're totally right. If you look at the end of this season and LeBron James is not the most valuable player, I feel like next year they need to change the definition of what most valuable player award means, because there is no doubt that LeBron James is the most valuable player that we've seen in this season. And there's a huge
look at their team.
Yeah. I mean,
we say this every week, man. This is easily the weakest team that LeBron's ever brought to the final.
Well, teammates aside for a second, but just what that team went through this entire year, and for LeBron to be at the forefront, to be the leader of a team that brought in a bunch of veterans, right, and tried to figure out how that was going to work, right? That failed. So then you have to deal with the Isaiah Thomas. Well, first off, let's start from the beginning of the offseason, right? Their GM doesn't get brought back. Their second star player, Kyrie Irving, demands a trade. LeBron wants to keep Kyrie Irving, but they're unable to do it. They end up trading Kyrie Irving for an injured Isaiah Thomas. Now, your locker room dynamics switch up because you get a lot of veteran guys in there, whether it's Jay Crowder, whether it's Isaiah Thomas, whether it's Dwayne Wade, all these guys, and it's not really working. Okay? Isaiah Thomas comes back, but not only does he come back, he doesn't really fit in, and he's talking about it in the media. Your team is imploding in the media. Then you get a trade to blow up half your team, change up your team. So you bring in a whole new core for your team mid-season, okay?
That have never played together.
Never played together before. You have J.R. Smith throwing soup at an assistant coach. Something that we keep forgetting, right?
Dude, I forgot about it until somebody mentioned it after they won Game 7. Somebody tweeted, well, I guess sometimes you just got to throw soup on your assistant coach. It's Oh, yeah.
Right?
That happened this year.
That was a thing that happened. Kyle Korver lost his brother and missed a bunch of time this season. Like, just how do you deal with something like that as a teammate, as a friend, watching one of your brothers go through that, right? And I mean brother in terms of like your teammates, right?
Yeah.
Deal with the loss of a family member like that. Like, that's on a serious level, a serious moment in terms of like, how something like that could possibly happen to a team and have that player come back into the fold and fit right in. Like Kyle Korver came back and has been a major part for this team down the stretch. Tyronn Lue, if we don't remember, towards the end of the year, he had to take a leave of absence because he was dealing with health issues.
Right.
Like, it was just so many things going on with this team throughout. Then we get to the playoffs and then Kevin Love goes down. Like, it's just been one thing after the other, and the whole time, the one constant has been LeBron James putting in gangster work. It's an incredible performance.
Just making those teammates look like not only his teammates, but like we said, Ty Lue as well. Ty Lue, maybe not the greatest coach out there in the NBA, but every time LeBron steps on the court, he makes Ty Lue look like a friggin' genius, man.
What did you make of? Did you catch the post game after they were handing out the trophy and LeBron's doing the interview with Doris Burke?
I think what people don't understand, people that never played the game of basketball, never played team sports, is that only to succeed, it has to be a team effort. I know I get a lot of the headlines, win, lose, or draw, whatever the case may be, but in order to be successful, it's a team game. I learned that from when I first started picking up a basketball to play organized basketball at age 9. So you get all the doubters and people who's never stepped in the arena, who's never played basketball, who's never put on a tank top and shorts, who's never played anything organized, always want to try to kill my teammates. And it's unfair to them, but I'm always stay true to the game of basketball because the game of basketball always stay true to me. And that's why we're going to another finals, because my teammates played the hell of the game.
If you pay attention to the end of that, right, and he says, I'm always going to be true to the game of basketball because the game of basketball has always been true to me. To me, that sums up exactly the legacy that LeBron James has in the Michael Jordan debate and why it doesn't really make sense to me anymore, right? And the reason is because they're just two different players. Like, think of the arguments we've always had about LeBron versus MJ, right? And it always centers around, well, LeBron doesn't have MJ's killer instinct, whatever that means now, right? Because he's hit game winners, he's done all that. But
LeBron doesn't have the rings.
Yeah, right? But the killer instinct is always the thing. He doesn't have the killer instinct like Kobe or Mike or whatever, right? And LeBron has always been, to me, like the remix of Mike and Magic put together. LeBron is always going to make the right basketball play all the time, right? Like that. We glorify MJ for the 1 or 2 times he passed to Paxton or passed to Steve Kerr to hit those shots, but LeBron literally does that during the entire game. And if you were
built his career on it.
Throughout his entire career, for sure. But if you were to focus in on Game 7, right, and the point that he was trying to make in that post-game presser, it's you're watching the first half of that game, and the Cavs, not named LeBron James, cannot make a shot to save their lives, right? And nobody would have blamed him if LeBron just said, all right, screw this, and just went into Chuck mode and just started taking whatever shots, forcing up double teams, doing whatever. Nobody would have blamed him, right? Because it didn't look like anyone on their team was going to hit an open shot for the whole game. But instead, what does LeBron James do? He keeps feeding his teammates, keeps feeding Jeff Green, keeps feeding JR, keeps feeding Korver. And eventually, some of them start making shots, right? He feeds Jeff Green so he can get an easy layup. Feeds George Hill late in the game so he can get an easy layup. That's really what he's talking about when he's talking about, that's really what he means when he's talking about he's always going to be true to the game of basketball, right? The game of basketball, these are NBA players. Eventually, they're going to make wide open shots. Yeah. I just thought that was an amazing, look into the mind of LeBron James in terms of what he's thinking and how he goes about the game of basketball. Yeah, these guys can miss shots. I'm still going to continue passing them the ball because I know that these guys can eventually hit a shot, and I need them to hit a shot or else we're going to lose anyways. I thought that was genius.
And on the other side of it too, it's like those players are like, listen, I know that I'm playing with somebody who's going to do everything in his power to help us win this game. Mm-hmm. You know what? Even if I miss this shot, I know it's coming back to me.
Exactly. He's never. One thing I can say, I don't know if maybe Mario Chalmers got it a couple times. I'm trying to think, but I don't recall ever seeing LeBron get mad at someone for missing a shot, like missing an open jumper or something. Like, I don't know, maybe, I'm sure it's happened, but if it was going to happen, you probably would have thought it would go down during this playoff run, right? But I don't know, just an amazing, incredible performance by LeBron James, and also showing a true sign of leadership too, right? Because imagine being those guys, and as you just said, knowing you're always going to get the ball back, but also watching this guy in a post-game press conference basically load up and go at all media members that have just been shitting on you the entire playoff run. Right? Like, I think that matters a lot to those other guys. Like, they got to see him like go out on a limb to make sure to be like, no, screw you guys. You guys don't know what you're talking about. Stop going at my teammates, whether it's true or not. Nah, he's not here for that.
Yeah, he'll never let you know whether he thinks that or not, because like you say, he's a true leader and a true professional.
Yeah. My next question for you, though, Webby, is a lot of talk about whether or not this was LeBron's greatest playoff performance or achievement.
Just Game 7, or just
getting
this
team to the NBA Finals, in which a Game 7, his second best player was Jeff Green.
So I'm just trying to go back, so the only other one that I could think of would be that, but even that first year that he comes back with the Cavs, still has Kyrie, and Kyrie didn't get injured until
Kyrie got hurt in game 1. Yeah, game 1 of the finals.
Right?
Kyrie got hurt. Yeah, Love went down against Boston.
And now, numbers wise, I think that I think his numbers in the last Cavs, the loss to the Magic.
Oh, the loss to the Magic.
Magic.
Yeah.
I think that playoff run, he had crazy numbers, and of course, like the number one playoff game that he had was either against the Pistons or Game 6 against the Celtics
in Boston with the Heat. Yeah.
With the Heat, right? Yeah. Those game for game, those are right up there on the top of my mind. But in terms of a body of work in the postseason, yeah, considering that, like we said, he played all 82 games of the year. Mm-hmm. This is not his strongest team that he's had. Mm-hmm. And just the absolute sheer audacity of the numbers that he had game in, game out. Other than one game, I think it was the Game 2 in Boston.
Yeah, Game 1 or Game 2, he didn't do. And
he didn't even play the fourth quarter, right?
Yeah.
But other than that, his numbers have been insane in this postseason run.
Completely incredible performance by LeBron James. But I think that people, we have a recency bias with everything, right? And I still think his greatest achievement will go down as being coming back from 3-1 against the Golden State Warriors in the finals, especially winning that Game 7. And I know everyone always points out Draymond Green wasn't there for one. He was suspended for a game, and I understand that, but you still had to go triple-double, and then I think something ridiculous, a near triple-double, but 30-plus point performance.
30-plus, yeah.
In Game 7 in Golden State against arguably the best team in the history of basketball. That, to me, is LeBron's greatest achievement because, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to take away from what he just did, but the reality of the situation is that's against the Golden State Warriors and Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. This season, he went through Victor Oladipo, DeMar DeRozan, and Al Horford. I'm just saying, when we take a step back, right? That part will get romanticized and we won't remember it. But while we're in the moment, I'm just here to remind you, this guy came from 3-1 down against arguably the best team in the history of basketball. And this team here beat the Raptors. Right? Man. Amazing. So NBA Finals, Webby. Are you excited for these finals? Are you kind of tired of the Warriors versus the Cavs? What are your thoughts heading into Game 1?
I don't think you can be tired of the best team in the NBA taking on the best player.
Agreed.
Now, my prediction is I'm sorry to say, is the Warriors in probably 5. Mm-hmm. I think that the force of LeBron can get them one game in Cleveland. But here's the thing, man. It's that if they can if they can do it, the Cavs are going to give them a good run. All right, and anything can happen in the NBA. That's all I'll say. But other than that, this could be a pretty short series.
Here's the thing. No Iguodala really, really hurts Golden State a lot more than we think. But
Right.
my main thing heading into this series, Golden State are like big time favorites into this series. And I just think that it's going to be a lot closer than we think. Because what Cleveland does, Golden State, we kind of just saw the blueprint of how you can beat Golden State, right? And LeBron can chill on defense. He can guard whoever's playing center.
Right.
He can guard whoever's playing center. He can guard maybe Draymond, right? Like there are places where LeBron can quote unquote hide on defense, right? So we saw that. We saw the success that the Rockets had when they would switch screens and have James Harden go at Steph Curry. LeBron's going to do the same thing. We just watched him do it against Terry Rozier. But the other thing is LeBron can really control the tempo of the game and slow it down and play at the pace that he wants to play at, right? And I always talk about this because we saw it the first year when it was LeBron, Delly, JR, Shumpert, and they took 2 games from Golden State that year, right? Remember when there was no Kyrie or no Kevin Love? So LeBron can control and dictate the pace. And I just think that Golden State, we just saw when things get kind of tough, I don't know if they've played enough close games this season that, if Cleveland can keep it tough, keep it close, I mean, I'm not just going to hand this to Golden State as easily as everyone else is. Am I saying the Cavs are going to win? No, I'm not saying that. But I think it can go at least 6 games. And once you get into that area, I don't know how much problems you want from LeBron James. Again, the Warriors are very finesse. The Warriors are a very finesse team, and if Tristan can dirty up the game and grab rebounds and dominate the rebounding battle,
as he has in the past against the Warriors,
exactly. And if the Cavs can get their shooters to finally shoot, get Kyle Korver, I think Korver can play in this series because he can guard. He can hide on defense. He can guard Steph Curry or he can guard Jordan Bell. Like there's minutes to be found for a Kyle Korver in this series, right? JR can get his confidence going. I don't know. George Hill is a solid defender. It'll be very interesting. I think it'll be more interesting than people are giving this series credit for. I don't think it's going to be a sweep. I don't think it's going to be 5 games. And I don't want to say the Cavs because I'm not going to be that guy to just throw out the Cavs just to say it. Do you know what I mean? But I really think that this will be more of a series than people are letting on than it will be. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited for it.
There's 2 things. 2 big factors. Number 1 is the health of Kevin Love.
Mm-hmm.
If Kevin Love isn't playing, I think that's I know how important Iguodala is to the Warriors, but if Kevin Love isn't playing, then I don't think the Cavs have much of a shot at all.
Yeah.
Number 2 is, can Jeff Green guard Kevin Durant?
Here's the thing. I don't know if anyone can guard Kevin Durant.
Can you send him at Kevin Durant?
I think so. I think they're going to try.
Because if you do that, then you have to let Clay, I guess, beat you. And Clay can beat you.
Yeah,
no doubt about it.
True. The way that Clay beats you, though, is, Clay's a guy that runs around screens, and he'll do it that way. And I think that you can get by with even Korver guarding Klay Thompson, no? Like, Klay Thompson's not beating you off the dribble. Do you know what I mean? Like, Klay Thompson's going to run around screens and stuff, and if he hits a shot, he hits a shot kind of thing. If you try to deny defense and do that, like, there's ways that you can try, I emphasize this, try to game plan Klay Thompson. I mean, your biggest worries are KD and Steph for sure, and if Iggy's not there, they're going to struggle to score. If you can find a way to keep Durant and Curry at the 25 mark, not let them get 30 plus, if you can keep the 2 of those guys down, I don't know. We've seen LeBron do it in the past where he basically just lets Draymond shoot, right? He leaves Draymond wide open and lets him shoot.
Well, that's what the Rockets were doing.
Yeah, definitely, right? And I think the blueprint is there for the Cavs. You just saw what the Rockets did, and they probably just ran out of gas and were missing Chris Paul. So if I'm LeBron, I'm sitting down with my team, I'm watching tape, and I'm watching all the things that the Rockets did. And I'm saying, Tristan, you can be You can be what Capella was doing. You can be what PJ Tucker was doing, you know? And I'm saying, look at all these shots that Ariza was getting the whole time, that Gordon was getting the whole time. They need to try, and I know it might be too far gone, they need to try and get something from Rodney Hood, too.
Oh,
I know it might be too far gone.
I think that might too. I think you're probably better off getting anything from Jordan Clarkson, which is also pretty much too far gone.
I think Nance can be a factor in this series, though. No, against Looney or whoever their bigs are.
You know how much I love the Nance minutes. I love the Nance minutes.
I'm here for that. I'm definitely here for that. I'm here for this NBA Finals. As much as people want to talk about how they're bored of this matchup, as you said, man, what more could you?
Me?
If you told me for the championship decider in every single sport, you're going to have the best team, possibly the best team in the history of that sport, go up against arguably the best player in the history of that sport, wouldn't you take that in every single league, every single year? Of course you would. No,
people complaining too much. It's the last at least 4 games of basketball we're going to get for a long time. Yeah. So I'm going to watch every minute of it.
I'm here for it. There's also something else, though, Webby, that we were here for last night.
We got to talk here.
And, there's a lot of different avenues to this because obviously it involves the Sixers, which is your team, your squad. It also involves the former general manager, president and general manager of our Toronto Raptors, which makes this very interesting.
Current general manager of the Toronto Raptors.
Yes,
as well.
There's some shade being thrown at the current general manager and president of the Toronto Raptors. And I'll start here. So basically, for those who don't know, there's a article put out on theringer.com. Theringer.com, for those who don't know, is Bill Simmons' website that he started. And this is super interesting, obviously, as well, because Bill Simmons is a huge Celtics fan. So would he be pushing a narrative to try to disrupt the up-and-coming conference rivals?
The Ringer does a lot of good. No, the Ringer does a lot of good independent work, and I've got a lot of time for their writers and their editors because some of their stories are excellent pieces of journalism. Some of them are, who's the best Bachelor contestant, but then they also have great music journalism and great sports journalism, great pop culture journalism. I don't think that this is any sort of narrative that Simmons as a pro-Boston guy is putting up.
Hold on, Webby. I'm definitely here for the extra pop culture stuff that the Ringer does. I'm here for all the Ringer stuff. I think what I was trying to get across was more so just it's a funny coincidence that this narrative is being pushed against the Sixers and not against another team. Because I just feel like, hey, when we're talking about burner accounts, I feel like there's a lot of people in NBA circles that probably have burner accounts.
Well, you know what's funny, too, is that I was reading that Coach K, back in 2010, 2012, got busted for the same thing.
Oh.
That he had burner accounts going to kind of follow recruits and stuff.
Follow recruits and see what they're up to. Makes sense. I mean, when you break it down, it definitely makes sense. But
that's part of professional sports nowadays.
I think that's part
of life.
Exactly. I was going to say, I bet probably a lot of people in normal everyday work offices, I wouldn't be surprised if they had burner accounts so they could follow what their employees were doing, right? Like, I wouldn't be surprised at any of that. Now, the difference here is, they're probably not throwing shade at said employees on those burner accounts. But that appears to be allegedly and what Bryan Colangelo was doing. And again, this started with an article on The Ringer that's titled "The Curious Case of Bryan Colangelo and the Secret Twitter Account." It says a collection of Twitter accounts that has criticized Joel Embiid and Markelle Fultz, disclosed sensitive information, and outlined team strategy shares eye-opening similarities. What does that have to do with the Philadelphia 76ers decision maker? So, Webby, can you give me a little rundown of just what this article entailed, what was going down? Break it down for people who might not have read the full article.
Okay, so there are 5 accounts in question here on Twitter. I don't think all of them were actively tweeting, but some of them were.
Yeah.
At least 2, if not 3 of them were tweeting. And they were tweeting not just opinions about some people that Bryan Colangelo is close to or used to work with, like Masai Ujiri, like a lot of Sixers players and upper management types. But these 5 accounts all seem to follow the same people, or groups of the same people. And when this reporter at the Ringer got this tip, he called the Sixers and said one account in particular that was almost kind of confirmed to him as Bryan Colangelo.
Yeah.
He reached out and said, hey, is this Bryan Colangelo? The team responded that, yes, Bryan Colangelo does have a Twitter account that isn't his name.
Mm-hmm.
But what really raised the red flags were that these other 4 accounts all shut down right after that phone call came in.
So this is a really important part, right? Because it's a red flag of it all. There are 5 Twitter accounts. They called, and they did this on purpose, which is a genius move, by the way, by the writer. They called the Sixers and let them know, hey, we got a tip that there are 2 Twitter accounts that kind of seem kind of fishy, that they lead to or point to Bryan Colangelo or someone within the organization. Can you please confirm or deny this? And they noticed that once they sent that message, all 5 went private. So the other 3 that they didn't even mention, but they didn't know that the Ringer were aware of the other 3 accounts, but magically those 3 accounts also went private and stopped tweeting. That is a big red flag here, right?
Absolutely. And then the digging started into those other 4 accounts or 5 accounts.
Yes.
What had they been saying? And those tweets were almost more incendiary than the one that had been kind of uncovered that was confirmed as Colangelo's second Twitter. These were things like, hey, talking to reporters saying, hey, you're a reporter, you're a blogger, why don't you ask the team for an interview to talk to Jahlil Okafor about his knee? Or
yes,
Masai Ujiri is a trust fund baby, and the only reason he has the job in Toronto is because of XYZ.
Yeah.
Or no one wants to see Joel Embiid up there at the Meek Mill concert dancing with no shirt on when he should be injured.
Yeah, I mean, the way that this looks is that it's pointing to either Bryan Colangelo or someone very close to him trying to push out narratives that Bryan Colangelo obviously would not be able to say in front of a microphone to the media, but is trying to point people in certain directions, which, A, makes absolutely no sense at all. Because why would, like, a random Twitter account that tells a writer, hey, you should probably ask this question, why is that writer going to answer that? Like, why, if this was Bryan Colangelo, why wouldn't you just use the normal means of leaking stories? Like, isn't that a whole part of how stories get run in the NBA? No? Like, teams leak to Woj or leak to whatever, different narratives and different storylines to get things out there. Like, isn't that a thing that already happens? Like, why would you need to go to a fake Twitter account and have an egg and think that that's going to be the way that, hey, injury status on Okafor or injury status on Nerlens Noel, that stuff needs to get out there, but nobody's reporting it. Like, I don't understand why that's the way you would go about that if you're Bryan Colangelo.
Because this way, if you're Bryan Colangelo, then now you're not seen as a leaker. And then you don't have that reputation around you.
But don't we already know that this stuff happens? Right? Like teams, but just not at this level?
Yeah, well, I'm sure it does happen at this level, but then you've still got to keep in mind that your reputation is, as a leaker, is going to be out there because reporters are going to talk to other reporters.
Yeah.
Reporters are going to talk off the record with some
agents,
of their other sources.
To other agents,
and so on and so forth. Now, with this anonymity of social media in our life, now, if you're Bryan Colangelo and you do want to get something out there, you want to get a reporter's attention, this is what you do.
It is crazy. And the other thing is, so there was the stuff you mentioned about, these random Twitter accounts tweeting at reporters and getting into arguments with reporters or getting into arguments with fans about Bryan Colangelo's collars. There's a lot of talk about that. It's just really weird, this Eric Jr. account, right? Like,
yeah,
it's just really odd how this whole thing came about. But the one thing I wanted to bring up too was there's a really big link here, or what I would find interesting as a Raptors fan. There's a huge tie to Toronto, right? It's just all these things, and he's retweeting random tweets of someone saying a quote tweet of DeMar DeRozan saying he loves Brian's swag was always on 100. Like, this is just so ridiculous on so many levels. But you add in the parts where he's going at Masai Ujiri, and I'm just like, the level of petty matches someone who would have a fake burner account. No.
Now, are you up to date with everything that's happening? Because this is a fluid situation.
Oh, what's happened lately?
Because this afternoon, this evening, it's come out now that a lot of Philly Sixers bloggers and journalists have put together some things with the account, the phone number that's been associated with these accounts.
Okay.
And it leads back to Colangelo's wife. The cell phone number, it seems like that this is Colangelo's wife who's been running these burner accounts, which kind of makes a little more sense, right? Well, because some of these things that you can't imagine, and listen, we know a lot of people who have spent a lot of time with Bryan Colangelo, having both worked in Toronto sports media before.
Yeah.
And from everything that I read about Colangelo and I've heard from him, this doesn't seem to fit with his personality.
Here's the thing,
right?
Webby. Like, I can tell you, right? Like, I talk about it sometimes on this podcast, but not really. But I've covered the NBA for 10 plus years. And while Bryan Colangelo was with the Raptors, I've actually had the pleasure of interviewing Bryan Colangelo more than on a few occasions.
Yeah.
And Bryan Colangelo is one of the more polished and like just professional dudes you will ever meet, right? And so for him to have a blunder like this is really catching me off guard, because it's like, and again, this is all allegedly. We don't know what the relationship is with him and these Twitter accounts, right? But to me, I just can't see someone who was normally in such a very like prim and proper and professional manner get caught up in something like this. From when I first read this, I was like, I don't know if this is him, but I feel like it's someone around him. But it has to be someone close enough that would obviously know the intricate details of certain things that are going on within the organization, right? So my assumption was, I think it's got to be his son, or I thought it was maybe his dad, right? Like they had the
Jerry,
tweet.
yeah.
Because there was one tweet about
Beijing
Olympics and Dwayne Wade and Gabby Union, and saying that met Gabby Union and he watched her be rude to a fan or something in Beijing. Yeah. And Dwayne Wade took to Twitter to say, well, it must not have been. I guess we all look alike because it wasn't me, and Gabby Union wasn't even in Beijing. So it's just like there's so many things going on with this situation, right? And as I said, in my interactions with Bryan Colangelo, and I'm telling you, like, no, I'm not exaggerating to boost anything or anything, but I'm saying I've had multiple interactions with Bryan Colangelo, and he's a super nice guy, super good guy, seems so professional, and I can't picture him making up multiple fake Twitter accounts to tweet dirt on Masai Ujiri. Like, that just seems so weird and so shady.
Right.
And if you don't know like what some of these things are that he said about that the fake Eric Jr. account wrote about Masai Ujiri, and if you think about it, right? Let's go back, because Masai was hired in 2013 to replace Colangelo, but before that, Colangelo was the one that brought Ujiri aboard as Toronto's director of global scouting, and then elevated him to assistant GM, right?
Right.
So then 2 years later, after a stint in Denver, Masai comes back, and now you have this Eric Jr. who's tweeting, quote, "Nothing seems to fall on Ujiri's shoulders." In response, this was in February 2017, in response to a column about a bad Raptors loss. In another tweet, the account suggested that Toronto was successful because of players Colangelo had originally brought in, such as Kyle Lowry and DeRozan. Quote, "They are falling apart because nothing was done to make them a better team." Close quote. "They're coasting on trust fund money." Wow. Then he chafed that Masai Ujiri, quote, "You were re-signed for 30 plus million this summer. So yes, please, Masai, do something. This just reads of like, I can't even picture, and I don't know Bryan Colangelo personally. I'm not saying that. My only interactions are professional manner. But I can't picture this man talking like this on a burner Twitter account. That just seems to be the dumbest thing ever. Like, I can't believe it. But then again, Webby, in 2017 or 2018, shouldn't I believe it? I don't know what to do here.
It makes way more sense that it's someone that he knows and is close with and has shared his opinions about things like this.
Yeah.
You know, it may not be him, but it's definitely somebody close with him. And right now, I mean, the Sixers really only have one option.
You have to fire him, right?
It's to get the Colangelos out of the organization immediately. Not just because Colangelo got dunked on by Joel Embiid after this whole thing broke.
Oh my
with
goodness.
Joel going into the Twitter accounts, liking every tweet that was negative towards Embiid, and then coming up with one of the greatest tweets of sports in 2018, where he was acting like he was tweeting from a burner account and saying that Sam Hinkie is smarter and better than Eric Jr. will ever be. I thought that was amazing. But I mean, listen, it's either it is Colangelo and you have to get him out of there, or it's Colangelo, somebody close to Colangelo, and he's been sharing these secrets and doesn't have a handle on who's ever putting these out there in the Twitter sphere.
I look at this situation and I don't see how a full week will pass and Bryan Colangelo will still have his job. Because again, if it's someone close, here's a real thing too, right? So the Sixers are launching their own internal investigation into this, right? And really, shouldn't that be really simple? Because if he's using, I'm sure he has a team phone, and I'm sure he uses a team-issued computer. So they could easily look into both those things and see if those passwords or logins or Twitter accounts have ever been linked to any of his things, right? And if I'm him, I'm even handing over my personal phone to show that, hey, this was only mine. This was only my account, not any of the others, right?
But the problem is that even if he does that, these tweets were still sent out with information that only Colangelo would be privy to, right?
Not necessarily, though. It could be still someone close to him, and I don't know who it could be that he would make the scapegoat. But if it does turn out to be, because I was thinking, again, that it was either his dad or his son, like someone like that, right? And if he came out and said, oh, it was my son, whatever, like he still has to get fired, right?
Yeah, and if it's the same thing, because it seems to be that it's the wife.
Whoa, that is a crazy twist, and I don't even know. Like, Allegedly, yes. Also, there was this tweet sent out earlier by Jordan Schultz, and Jordan Schultz works for Yahoo Sports as an insider and is also a co-host of a podcast with CJ McCollum. But Jordan Schultz says, Bryan Colangelo tells me via text, quote, someone's out to get me. This is clearly not me. Colangelo adds that he's, quote, hopeful to resolve this soon. So tons going on here for Bryan Colangelo, and I do not know how this is going to be a thing. Oh, I found this here. I see this now, Webby. This from the Did the Sixers Win account.
Yeah.
Right? Is this what you were talking about here? And it says, Colangelo's wife, Barbara Bettini, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, has a phone number ending in 91, almost certainly linking her, and I'm reading this tweet off the internet, so I'm going to add an allegedly here, almost certainly linking her to 3 of the burner accounts. Now, again, I'm saying allegedly here. Okay, I'm saying allegedly. I'm just reading this off the internet, but this is amazing. It looks like they found an email address. Oh, wow, this is so crazy. This is like the deep dive. It's amazing. The way that the internet works now, like, you can't mess up because the internet is going to find
We're going to find you. We're going to find you.
The other weird part to all this was that Adrian Wojnarowski, who we know is just the man when it comes to anything involving the NBA, he was very quick in terms of putting stuff out there that made it seem like he was also pointing his finger at Colangelo. No? There were some tweets there that were, so first off, from Woj, he said, Let's see here. He first had the word from Joel Embiid, and Joel Embiid said that Colangelo, he said, I talked to him, and he said that he didn't say that. He called me just to deny the story. Got to believe him until proven otherwise. If true, that would be really bad. Cool. Next, Woj said, maybe there's an IT person who can prove it wasn't Bryan Colangelo, but here's one of the biggest problems in disputing the Ringer's story. Those tweets reflected not only private team biz, but launched personal beefs / jealousies / frustrations that he shared inside and outside the Sixers. Again,
Right.
I'm going to read that again. Those tweets reflected not only private team biz, but launched personal beefs, jealousies, frustrations that he shared, as in Colangelo, inside and outside the Sixers. So that means these are things that people already knew were floating around, and now you're seeing it pinned to a fake Twitter account that allegedly is linked to Colangelo. That to me is Woj saying that there's rumblings to this and people are talking. No,
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
But still, but that's why
as a Sixers guy, what do you want to happen here?
you got to fire Colangelo immediately. I'm surprised that it's taken this long. I mean, this is an embarrassing story to come out for a team, like you said, that's on the ascension, and to have your GM involved in a kind of a scandal like this, it's unacceptable. And like I said, even if it wasn't him that was sending the tweets, it's somebody that's close enough to him to understand that these beefs and jealousies and then making them public. And that's something that you just can't have happen.
I just saw your tweet right now. I'm not even good. That's amazing, Webby. You're hilarious. The other thing here with all this, right, that I will say, the other thing that I find super, 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 super interesting here, this discussion, I was listening to a Lebitard show on my way home, and I love the Lebitard show, and I advise, if you love sports, but more so if you like fun things, I advise that you listen to the Dan Lebitard show. But they went off on this whole tangent about how Hinkie can be behind this, because if you think about it, the Ringer did an article on Hinkie a couple years ago, or maybe it was last year, just about what he's up to. And they use a term describing what he's into now is that he works with artificial intelligence.
Right.
If you go to who the source is on this Ringer story, all it says is the person said they work in artificial intelligence. Now, I'm sure there's probably a lot of people in this world that work in artificial intelligence. I don't know how many people in this world work in artificial intelligence and also have ties to the NBA or would care about the NBA more so the Sixers. But the question lies here, Webby. Could this be a whole just Hinkie smear campaign? Because if you break it down, isn't it kind of easy that you could set this up for anyone? Right? Like you could set up burner accounts and make it seem like it's someone else?
No, like what I mean, that just adds a little richness to it. I mean, if this is a power play by Hinkie, that would be amazing. But I don't think it's something that's made up, because a lot of these were about Hinkie.
Yeah.
And about how,
come on, that's just a throw off the scent, right?
Oh man, I mean that's some James Bond level shit. But I mean, it would be amazing if it was Hinkie that came to the Ringer and came up with these algorithms that prove that Bryan Colangelo or somebody very close to him was using these burner accounts.
Because the other thing here is, right, it's like, let's say it's Hinkie. Let's say he anonymously goes to the Ringer and says, hey, I have all this information. Trust me, just ask them. And you'll be able to find out. And then they're like, okay, we're going to ask them. You ask them, you automatically shut down the other accounts at the same time. That looks hella fishy. Because you would know that they're about to ask the Sixers, no?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just saying. I just think this whole thing is so crazy. And it's hilarious because it sums up the NBA perfectly right now, right? Because there's a gap between when the NBA Finals starts, right?
Yeah.
And even after two great Game 7s that would have carried the conversation until the start of the NBA Finals, it's like, just in case you were thinking of being bored with the NBA, oh no, here comes a story that you've never heard of before in any other sport. And that's why I love the NBA.
It's wild. and And like I say, it's a fluid situation. This thing is not over by a long shot.
It is not over by a long shot at all. But Webby, speaking of things that are not over by a long shot.
I thought you were going to say, speaking of things that are over by a long shot.
Well, I don't know. It remains to be seen how things are going to go here. And I mean, sometimes we have to make a stretch to find something to talk about in our Ask on Blast segment. And sometimes, things are pretty easy. We enjoyed the show Atlanta, so that took up most of the conversation. Something else we also enjoy is hip-hop music. And what a week it's been in hip-hop. And of course, we're talking about Drake versus Meek Mill. No, we're talking about Drake versus Pusha T. Another rapper that I feel like mainstream media doesn't really know about until they don't really understand the inner workings of what's going on.
I would say that Push definitely has a little more public clout than Meek did.
You think so? Just because of the clips?
Yeah. I mean, maybe I was right in the right age demographic, and you were too, but I remember the clips being a huge deal in like 2004 or 2005.
Well, they definitely were everywhere because of that verse they put on the Justin Timberlake's first breakout hit, right? That was massive. Yeah. But for those that are unaware, the clips were made up of Malice and Pusha T. Malice no longer raps because he's found God.
Yeah, and that's right. Yeah, that's right.
That leaves Pusha T to carry the torch of the drug rap, which,
listen, we've discussed, and listen, this is the rap that I really love. is the rapping about cocaine. And there's very few out there who do it better than Pusha T and Malice back in the day. But for now, Pusha T. And Pusha dropped, the other thing is, Pusha dropped an album this past week.
Which is fire.
Not only that, Shelly, but can we talk about how great it is to have a 7-track album with 7 amazing songs?
I know that we're not allowed to say right now that this was a great idea by Kanye West or whoever came up with this whole thing, but Kanye's album is about to drop on Friday. And so I don't know. I'm pretty sure, are there 7 albums that are coming out in success every other Friday for 7 weeks?
So I know
that the thing?
There's Push, there's Kanye and Cudi, and then there's Nas.
There's Nas, there's Tiana Taylor, and someone else too. But anyways, bottom line is Pusha T's album came out last Friday. Pusha T's album is
fire.
Fuego. It's called Daytona, and first off, it grabbed all the headlines because it was released that Kanye decided to pay a whole lot of money for a picture that showed Whitney Houston's bathroom, which was filled with drugs. And yeah, so that was the first way that this kind of gained the mainstream chat. But following that, the reason why people were so into this album was because the last song on said album by King Push was just a straight, direct shot at Drake, at Lil Wayne, Baby, and Cash Money, and everything that goes along with all of them. Now,
which has been going on for a while.
It has been, and that's a part that I think people miss here, right? This started, I want to say, in like 2006, when Pusha T would just keep taking shots, and the thing was, he would be calling out exactly what Baby was doing, and just saying that, Drake, who are you trying to talk to? You're signed to another dude who's signed to another dude who's signed to another dude, right? And it's just been a thing that has been going on for a long, long time. But it led us to this point, which was Friday. So the album Daytona comes out. The album Daytona comes out, and the last song is called Infrared, and it's just straight flames by Pusha T. And that was a thing that I thought a lot of people didn't really take in, because just the references that he was making, talking about how he
took away from.
No, I was going to say the references that he was making, where he's comparing Trump's presidency to Drake's reign over the rap game, and them being popular for just like not really being that good. Whether or not you think that is true or not, the way that he broke that down to me was so dope. And Pusha T is he's a rapper's rapper. Like, he's a spitter, right? And to compare this to Meek Mill, follow me here, Webbs. To compare this to Meek Mill, I think the thing that was wrong with Meek Mill was Meek Mill has his own separate flow and his own separate flow over certain beats. And unless you're a hip hop head, it's going to take you a second to grasp what Meek Mill's saying. So he was already at a disadvantage against Drake. Push made sure that, no, I'm going to get a nice slow beat and I'm going to rap nice and slow and you're going to hear every single shot that I send Drake's way. So following that, it went from that to Drake responding on a Duppy freestyle, which sent, I want to say, popular culture to Urban Dictionary to figure out what the meaning of the word Duppy is.
Yeah, and listen, like back to back, Drake did a great job with that freestyle. He like you said about Push, like he made those raps very accessible. You could hear what he's saying. You could understand what he was going at on Push about not being a real drug dealer, about selling Nikes and Mercedes sometimes, but, not being true to his word.
Yes. Basically calling out Pusha T, who on his new album says that there's no other rapper that sold more drugs than him other than Eazy-E. And then Drake comes out and Drake,
awesome line.
Which is a great line, yes. The only rapper to sold more drugs than me is Eazy-E. I think that's the line, yeah. And then Drake comes out saying that he's not really the one that sold the drugs. It was all his brother and one of their cousins. And so they're just going back and forth. But I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, but most people think that Drake won that round.
People thought that Drake really brought it to Pusha T. They said, wow, Drake's one of the better battle rappers out right now in popular hip hop, which drives me nuts.
To be honest, I disagree. I thought both songs were equally good. I liked that both of them were good. I thought they both had great punchlines. They both did a good job of going at real facts. And the only reason why I hesitated on saying that Drake won was because I felt like most of the body blows that Drake hit in the Duppy freestyle were aimed at Kanye. Right? And so
that's right. He did go after Kanye.
If most of your shots are aimed at Kanye, how are you beating Pusha T in a rap beef? That didn't really make sense to me.
No, you're absolutely right.
So while the whole world is waiting, thinking, wondering, pondering if Pusha T is going to come back, boy, did Pusha T come back last night.
Holy.
So
first of all, let's talk about the cover art for the diss track of Drake in blackface.
Yes.
From a photo shoot, years ago.
Before he's Drake, obviously, we're seeing young Drake, probably Degrassi Drake, right? We're seeing him in blackface, and then he's all happy, like in a typical blackface actor's smile that you would normally see. But then
Big
in the picture
lips,
beside it, you would see him sad, and that picture's in black and white. So it's an obvious take trying to say, this is the presenter, but this is what this person's like in real life. They're sad and whatever, and it's supposed to be some form of art. But I say, screw your art, because you're in blackface, and what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, it's not a good look, no matter if you're black, white, half black, Asian. I just don't think that blackface is really where, maybe
not a good idea. I just think it's one of those things where, hey, if I dress up as whatever, something stupid for Halloween, right? Which, I mean, hey, I've done before, for sure.
You're right.
But my point is, if I dress up as something for Halloween and then 10 years down the road, someone pops up this picture and now my context is, well, it was really this or this or this. It doesn't matter. That picture of me, I still look like a moron.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, there's really no way to talk your way out of it. And that's what turned the conversation on Twitter. It was pretty interesting to me because I felt like the Drake stans were just looking for reasons to discredit what Pusha T was saying or what Pusha T was doing. And it started with that photo. But there's a lot else that was going on there. But yeah, let's start with the photo. That was bad.
There were three things, okay, in the song. Mm-hmm. There's your dad left when you were 5. He wears Steve Harvey suits, and your mom's always been sad your entire life.
Which is just shots fired.
there's your OVO buddy, 40, has MS, and he doesn't have long to live.
Which is just, that's a vicious blow by Pusha T.
That is super vicious. And then the big one at the end was Drake has an illegitimate son with a French porn star, and his name is Adonis, and Drake's rolling him out with an Adidas launch.
Supposedly, Pusha T did an interview on The Breakfast Club this morning, and in that, he said that, in the interview, he said that Drake was about to do his Adidas rollout, and his Adidas rollout, whatever his line is going to be for Adidas, was going to be named after his son. That's what Pusha T said. Whether all that's true, I guess we'll find out at some point. I mean, my phone hasn't blown up yet, so I assume Drake hasn't responded or there's no new information at the time that we're recording this podcast.
Right. But again, like the Colangelo situation, it's fluid.
It is very fluid. And I mean, I'll be honest, when I listened to the story of Adnan, is that what is this song called? The story of Adidon?
Adidon?
Yes, the story of Adidon, right? So when I listened to it, Webby, I can't even lie. I got midway through and I stopped it. And I was like, oh my God. Yo, Push went straight for the jugular. There's no joking around. There was no joke. Like, he was like, I'm just going to keep it to the facts. And he's just going in about Drake allegedly being a deadbeat dad. And I thought that was like, the question now turns to, can you go too far in a rap beef?
Right.
What do you think?
No.
Quick answer from Webby there.
Bro, we came up in the days of hit 'em up.
Right? Exactly.
You can't go too far in a rap beef. You know why? Because two of the greatest rappers of all time were killed in a rap beef.
Yeah.
You can't go further than that over the line.
The thing, too, is that, my biggest fear with this whole thing was that the think piece was going to come today from, like, the Huffington Post or BuzzFeed or somewhere
of
dumb.
Like, why this rap battles in general are problematic or something?
Yeah, or, like, can this rap beef go too far? Did Pusha T go too far? And someone was going to make the link between that and, like, a comic going too far, as if those two genres are even remotely close to being the same thing. Do you know what I mean?
The MS Association of America came out against Pusha T. I read that. That
I didn't
today.
see that. Wow.
Yeah, saying that MS is nothing to make fun about.
Well, I mean...
And while that might be true, I thought it was still a pretty fire line.
I mean, the fact that, people forget about No Vaseline. People forget about... You know what I mean? Like, there's so many things that people forget about now, right? And it was funny when, what was the movie? What was a Straight Outta Compton? I was about to say, What was that Straight Outta Compton movie called? But people forget that scene, right? And I feel like a lot of people were introduced to that whole sort of beef type rap culture from that movie.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Because they witnessed a scene that was made very Disney-like, of them sitting around listening to Ice Cube's diss of Eazy-E, right? And NWA. And I feel like there are no rules. It's hip-hop. It's rap, right? And, like, nobody's saying that you're condoning what ended up happening to Big or Pac, but some of the best moments in hip-hop history, like Jay and Nas, like, that's a part of my childhood. No? Like, I remember that. That was everything.
It's part of the genre.
For sure.
It's part of hip-hop, is going at somebody who you think is lesser than you and using your skills to tell the world about it. I mean, it's part of the machismo of hip-hop and rap music, as we've grown to know it. And I'm happy that these two guys are going at each other. I'm excited to hear what Drake has to say. I'm excited to hear what Pusha T has to say about what Drake has to say.
The other beauty of this all is just the way that the internet works, right? And how everything was linked. So you mentioned the picture, right? So obviously he's taking the artwork of this blackface character. But the fact that he took that and then decided that he was going to do this freestyle over the Story of OJ track, which obviously Jay-Z was one of the Song of the Year candidates, right? I don't think it won Song of the Year, right? It didn't win, but it was nominated for Song of the Year at the Grammys.
Had a great video.
had a great video that also touched on a lot of the same issues of blackface and sort of that era of comedy of people, quote unquote, mocking black culture, like the very exaggerated lips. And, you know, it's just the way that Pusha T put this all together was reminiscent of what
Calculated.
Drake did to Meek Mill on Back to Back.
Yeah.
Right? The same way that the theme of Back to Back and the album art of Joe Carter hitting the home
Against the
run
Phillies.
against the Phillies and Meek Mill's from Philly, like just the way that this was all calculated by Pusha T was pretty crazy. But then on top of that, at the end of the day, bars. Bars. Like Drake was the
serious
one that
bars.
came out and mentioned in Drake's Duppy freestyle, he mentions Pusha T's wife or fiance. And then
Yeah.
Pusha T comes back saying, since you name drop my fiance, let them know who you chose as your Beyonce. Sophie knows better. For those unaware, Sophie is the name of the woman, the lovely lady, who is allegedly Drake's baby mom. Sophie Knows Better was also the name of her Instagram account before it went private when this flooded the internet last night. But
Yeah.
Sophie Knows Better as your baby mother cleaned her up for IG, but the stench is still on her. A baby's involved. It's deeper than rap. We're talking character. Let me keep it with the facts. You are hiding a child. Again, I repeat. You're hiding a child. Let that boy come home. Deadbeat motherfucker playing Border Patrol. Adonis is your son, and he deserves more than an Adidas press run. That's real. Love that baby. Respect that girl. Forget she's a porn star. Let her be your world. And then in the hardest bar ever, he just goes, yeah. Like so hard. And I felt that in my soul, Webby. I can't
I
even
know.
lie. I felt that in my soul.
The at the end was it, bro.
It's
I had to turn it off after that. I said, "Oh my god,
what should Drake do?
Yeah.
Should he respond, Webby?
he's got it." I mean, even after back to back, Meek responded with that. Listen, I'm a huge Meek Mill fan, but listen, you don't use the Undertaker gong for your beat when you come back on a diss track.
Yeah,
It wasn't great.
It wasn't.
And listen, the worst thing he can do is not respond because then he definitely takes the L. You at least have to show up and go through the paces.
So Van Lathan, who people might remember from TMZ in the Kanye video, he was a brother at
Yep.
TMZ who went back at Kanye. He tweeted earlier this afternoon, I'm going to bring it up, that, and again, the reason why this is relevant is because TMZ, if you remember, TMZ did report this story last May that this same woman reached out to them saying that she was pregnant with Drake's baby and Drake had sent her, she was pregnant with Drake's baby and she was trying to send TMZ a text message conversation with Drake acknowledging it and telling her to have an abortion. So TMZ was on this story like last May about Drake allegedly having this kid, right? So Van Lathan this afternoon tweeted out, have it on an incredibly good source that Drake is about to, quote, deal with the situation. Now, the first comment under that says, by deal with the situation, do you mean the diss track or the kid? Please advise. And he means a diss track. I don't know. This is crazy, but all I can say, Webby, is what a week for hip hop because, as I said, Kanye's about to drop on Friday. Hip hop is
waiting
here.
on the response. Yeah, man.
Dope
Hip-hop is here,
lines, dope disses. I'm here for all of it. I love this.
and the NBA Finals are here too.
But you know what, though, Webby? The only thing I don't like about this that I want to say, and I'm going to get on a soapbox here for just a second here before we end this podcast. The one part I'm not here for, listen, if you don't know who Pusha T is and you're not down with rap beefs, that's okay. You don't need to talk about this. You don't need to get involved in this. You don't need to do a story on this on your TV show or on your website or whatever. Like, that's okay if you don't know about this. It's okay. You don't have to comment about it. You don't have to give your take about it. Leave this to the people who know about hip hop music, who know about Pusha T. Because if you don't know about the clips and grinding, you need to get your Googles up.
not only that, if you don't know about the beef that Wayne and Baby and the Clips had going back to what happened to that boy, it's like you're missing the whole kind of background of everything that this beef comes from, and you're missing not just a chapter of the story, you're missing part one.
It's so true. And again, there's a difference between the people who want to learn and want to know more, and I get that, and I'm fully here to explain to you and help you and do all that. My beef is with this whole era of the news, like actual news. Like I saw like CBS News tweet out a link to a story of Pusha T comes back with a rap for Drake. And I was like, hold on, stick to doing the news. Like, this is not news. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to see this on CP24. I don't want to see this on like some mainstream media dude show because you don't know what you're talking about. That's all. Sorry. Rant over. Apology. I'm sorry. I'm done.
Put it out there.
I'm about to be happy again because more music is coming. And as you said, the NBA Finals is coming. And we're going to be here to talk about it next week. Right, Webby?
Absolutely. And hopefully we got ourselves a series on our hands.
For sure. But in the meantime, if I want to get your take on, this Meek, why do I keep saying Meek Mill? This Pusha T versus Drake rap beef, or on Roseanne, or on the NBA Finals, where can I find you, Webby? Where can the people hit you up?
Well, you can always find me on one of my many burner accounts that I roll with. But the main one is at awebster84 on Twitter and on Instagram.
Well, I was thinking of making my burner accounts public. No, I don't have a burner account. My burner account would be too lit, though.
Yo.
Yeah, it would be too.
My burner account would have... Yeah, my burner... I used to use my regular account as a burner account. It got me in a little bit of trouble.
My burner account would definitely be more successful on Twitter than my actual account. I'll just say that. But if you do want to follow me for some mildly hot takes, you can find me on Twitter at Shell Alexander and on Instagram at Sheldon Alexander. And again, if you like what you hear, like and subscribe either on YouTube, on iTunes, on SoundCloud. Let us know what you think, because we are the Ball on Blast podcast, as always, unpolished and unapologetic. Until next time, see ya.
Peace.
On blast.
This is Ball on Blast, part of the On Blast Podcast Network, available on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. If you like it, then subscribe and tell your friends. Holla.